Most people think of Chromecast when they hear the word cast, but Google Cast as a technology is much more than that. Chromecast is a small USB-powered dongle that plugs into the back of the HDMI port on your TV. Google Cast itself is a connecting technology. Using the SDK, you can integrate a cast device to become part of your application's output area, and if you like, you can control the cast by sharing it with multiple people. Chromecast is just one product that supports the cast protocol. There are many others as well, including Android TV, which is cast built in, as well as audio speakers from LG and Sony. Now, as a developer, you don't need to be aware of these different device types. Once you cast enable your app, it will work with all of them. When you start working with Cast, you typically have an existing application you've already built and would like to extend. You integrate Google Cast into your app using the Cast SDK. And we have SDKs available for Android, iOS, as well as web apps running on Chrome. The first thing to understand about Google Cast are the concepts of a sender and a receiver. When you integrate the Cast SDK into your existing app, it becomes what we call the sender. Sender applications send, or cast, content to cast devices either on the local network or to cast devices running in guest mode that can be detected based on proximity. What you cast from your application needs to be received by something, and that's what we call the receiver. Receivers are small HTML5 applications that run on a cast-enabled device like a Chromecast. Here's a quick overview of how the cast process works. First, you begin with an existing app. Then, you integrate the Cast SDK to enable discovery of devices. The SDK detects cast devices in the background, and when one's discovered, the cast icon becomes visible. Clicking that cast icon shows a menu of the available cast devices, and selecting one will start the cast. The cast icon then changes color to show that it's connected. At this point, the sender becomes the remote control. Note that here we've connected to the cast device before we've started playback, but it's also possible to connect after playback's already begun. When the cast begins, the cast device loads the receiver app from a URL. Here we can see the receiver has been loaded onto the cast device. Now, receiver apps run independently, so you can tell it to load things like media streams from a URL. When you do that, the cast device pulls the content directly from the cloud. And this is great because the user can use their mobile phone for other things like checking email or sending texts while the cast is in progress. To control the cast, you can send messages from the sender to the receiver to do things like adjust the volume, start playing new media, or even send custom messages, for instance to enable a thumbs up or a thumbs down button. And we'll see how to do that later in the course. Receiver applications running on a cast device are just web applications. They're written in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, just like any other web page. The cast device itself runs a special version of Chrome, and you can think of that as having a single tab. It's optimized for video playback, and typically you'll have a single video tag that represents the on-screen area where the media is to be played. For developers who want to get started quickly, you don't have to worry about writing a receiver application at all. Google provides a couple of sample receiver apps that you can load onto your cast device during development, and you can even use these in production if you'd like for playing back simple media. The one we're looking at here is called the Styled Media Receiver, and we'll get to that later in the course. Google's also built a whole bunch of sample sender apps for Android, iOS, and Chrome. You can build and run these on your devices to see how the SDK hooks into an existing application, as well as how to handle different cast scenarios, like DRM playback. There are quite a few of these samples, so I'll point you in the right direction to the best ones later in the course. Finally, it's essential to keep in mind that we're designing for the living room. We want the user experience to be familiar and enjoyable. To help you build the best possible cast experience, Google provides a set of user experience guidelines and a design checklist. We'll cover these later in the course, and they're optional but highly recommended. Let's recap with a quick quiz.